Welcome to the Marketing for Startups podcast by Ugly Ventures. I'm your host, Victoria Hajar, and the co-founder at Ugly Ventures, a place where entrepreneurs like you can find the tools and capital to grow your business. I'm so excited you're here. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Marketing for Startups podcast. I'm so happy that you're here. Today, we're going to be talking about the 3 ways to grow your business online. And we're going to be going through some methodology that I use with clients that I hope that you can implement in your own business. And let's dive in. So it all starts with our client value journey. So if you're not familiar with the client value journey, it's a 6-step process that all businesses go through, whether they know it or not. And so the steps to attracting new business, selling to them, and delighting their customers and hopefully getting great reviews. So this is a process that if you aren't consciously constructing, then clients are going through it anyway, in whichever way, shape, or form that takes. So if you haven't listened to the episode on the client value journey, I've put it in the show notes, and I would encourage you to go back there and review it and make sure that your client value journey is tight, that there's no leaks in your client acquisition system, and that you're really capitalizing on all the pieces of the marketing funnel that is already happening, right? Ways that you're attracting new clients and getting them to purchase from you, etc. But there's 6 steps to this journey. And the 6 steps are attract, engage, nurture, invite, and delight. And today we're going to be talking about, invite, delight, and advocate. That's the 6th one, advocate, right? And advocate will mean, getting referrals, helping your existing or past customers get new clients into your business. So these are the 6 steps. Today we're going to be talking exclusively about the attract stage. This is the first stage in the client value journey and how new people know about your business, how you get new eyeballs on your business and your brand. So it is pretty simple. There really are only 3 ways that you can grow your business online. And I want to start this episode by sort of debunking a myth that I see a lot of entrepreneurs and startup founders sort of falling into this trap, I would call it. And it's the idea that your social media platforms are part of your attract strategy. And that could have been true at one point in time. I think when social media platforms were in their more beginning stages, and advertising programs were not as sophisticated, or maybe they didn't exist, it was so much easier for you to reach new audiences online, on social platforms. It was just baked into the business model of the social media platform. And so when you talk to people who grew their business maybe 10 years ago, you could hear a lot of success stories of businesses just exploding because of social media. Nowadays, it's much more difficult to reach your audience. Even if you have a healthy audience with thousands of followers, I hope that you realize that there's a very small chance that you're actually communicating with those followers, that those followers are actually seeing the stuff that you're putting up on your social media platform. And so it becomes a question of advertising. Social media platforms have made it so that they, want you to pay to advertise even to your own followers to some degree. Because, again, with the algorithms that are in place, your audience is just simply not seeing what you do. A very small percentage is. And so I don't want you to think that being super active on social media is going to get you a lot that's going to really turn into revenue, because more cases than not, you need to be doing a larger marketing program, kind of be working within a larger marketing strategy that incorporates social media, where social media supports part of that client value journey, but you always need to be working on a more precise attract strategy. So we kind of think of social media as being an attract strategy, where in reality it's more of an engage or nurture strategy, in which you're really building that like, know, and trust factor and moving people towards the purchase through the purchasing journey. So today we're going to look at really the 3 ways to attract new audience. Okay. And we'll go ahead and talk about the first one I mentioned, which is advertising. So this is a very obvious, quick, and expensive tactic to employ in your business for getting new audience. And it's simply, pouring money into advertising, really understanding that client acquisition cost, that cost per click, and, playing a numbers game. You want to make sure with any advertising strategy that you're really optimizing the advertisements that you're investing in, that they're set up correctly, that they're reaching the right audience, that the audience that is clicking on those ads are ones that are interested in your product, that are actually, could possibly purchase your product. So when creating an advertising campaign or advertising budget for your business, I really, really suggest taking it slow, starting slow. The first couple months of an advertising campaign program should really be spent testing. You should be testing your copy, testing your imagery, testing your offers and your messages, testing the target audience that you're trying to reach. Otherwise, you really will be wasting a lot of money. And as advertisements online run, each month, you'll be able to look back on a really solid piece of data that's going to help you make more informed decisions in the future. But I should also note that before you spend one dime on advertising, you're going to want to go back to that client value journey. The last thing you want to do is spend money to get people into your sales journey, into your marketing journey, or into your sales funnels. And those sales funnels, or that client roadmap that hopefully you have thought through, doesn't have any leaks or any places where potential clients are not going to be able to complete a purchase. So this could be as easy as, just to give you an example, you wouldn't want to spend money getting people to your website and then discovering that your website has a really high bounce rate, that there's something about the setup of the website, the user experience isn't quite good enough, and so you have a really high bounce rate, because it's no matter how much money you spend on advertising, that conversion rate, that ratio, will probably pretty much stay the same unless you fix that bounce rate issue. So you don't want to be spending money for people to bounce right off of your website. You also don't want to be spending a lot of money to get people onto your website and have no way to gather their email address, right? Because it's very rare that someone would click into an advertisement and buy right away. What you're going to want to do is get people into your world. So even if they're not going to complete a purchase when they first know about your brand or see your brand, at the very least, you want to gather their email address. That's going to give you the ability to keep in contact with them and keep giving them sales messages and having them learn more about your brand. So again, make sure that that client value journey is tied together. So that's going to bring us to the next way that you can grow your business online, right? That's the second of 3 possibilities. And the second is the SEO strategy. So SEO is search engine optimization, and it's a buzzword that I think a lot of people have heard, but maybe they don't understand 100%. So there's 2 types of SEO. There's on-page SEO, which is all of the keywords and the meta descriptions and alt text on images, all that great stuff that you can do pretty easily to update your own website. And all of these modalities in updating the SEO is really used to make sure that Google is finding your website and indexing it properly, that Google can kind of get their, crawling through your website and understand very clearly what your website is about, what you're selling, what you're doing, what you're all about, in order to be able to match search inquiries in the Google search bar to your website. And the more exact and precise and well thought out the SEO strategy is, the better results you're going to get. So that's on-page SEO. And before you start really updating anything with your SEO, I would really consider consulting with an expert, an SEO expert that can help you create a keyword strategy. And oftentimes, keywords are sort of haphazardly researched and kind of plucked out of the sky of what words you want to be known for as it relates to your business or service. But when you do a deep dive keyword research and go a little bit deeper into the process with an expert, that expert's going to be able to lay out a strategy that's going to be super effective, because that deep dive keyword research not only incorporates what your business does, right, and what words you want to be found for, but it also incorporates what your competitors are doing and what your competitors are found for. And the process is really developing a strategy that's going to get your site to show up in research more than your competitors. So this really is more of a nuanced approach. And so when you get this keyword strategy down, your SEO consultant is also going to help you develop a content program, help give you suggestions on what kind of content, blog articles that you should be producing that's going to help support getting you to show up in search results for these particular keywords. So I really, really suggest going to an expert with this one, because there's a lot that you can do on a very superficial level, which I think you'll see doesn't really get you the kind of results that you want to. And it is really worthwhile doing a deeper dive. That's on-page SEO. Then off-page SEO has a lot to do with backlinks, right? Getting backlinks to your website, making sure that there are other websites, other companies, other people talking about your business online somewhere, because that's going to help build authority to Google, right? So different backlinks, which just simply means that there is a link to your website from another website. So a really good example I like to share with people is, if you get a mention on Vogue.com or NewYorkTimes.com about your business, that is incredibly powerful for SEO, because as New York Times and Vogue.com are incredibly accredited sources in Google's eyes, that having a link back to your page is going to really put a lot of trust in the Google gods, the Google system, that your website is worthwhile, that your website has high quality content. Because you have to understand, the algorithm that Google is using is always trying to be more precise and giving people what they want. And the only ways that they really can understand what your website's all about and how much they can trust you is by by implementing this SEO strategy, by having really relevant keywords on your website, and also having good authority by what your link backs are. And you can do link backs through your own blog. You can get great link backs through PR, or you can engage in a social media expert that's going to help provide link backs through different directories. And there's lots of interesting ways that you can get link backs for your business. So that is SEO. And related to that, I also think this isn't a growth strategy, but it also is something really important to note, that once if you're looking at creating or investing in an SEO strategy, I also would take a look at the user experience of your website. Because one thing is the work of getting people to the page, to your website, to your home page. And the other bit of work is having customers, potential clients, take proper actions. Take the actions that you want them to take once they get to your website. And you have quite a bit of control over how that happens. There's a lot of science behind user experience that we'll dig into in a different episode, but it is important to note. So the last way that you can grow your audience online is through partnerships, right? Leveraging other audiences. So this could be through various different ways. I think a lot of brands tend to think of this as an influencer strategy, which means, getting an influencer that has a large audience, maybe on Instagram, to collaborate on doing some posts or some promotions or giveaways. And then the audience of that influencer is exposed to your brand. And this is a really wonderful way of gaining new audience for sure. But there's a lot of different ways to look at partnerships. You could think of partnerships as participating in an event or conference. So a lot of times when your business participates in a conference, there's so many ways that you can leverage the audience of that conference organizer. You could get onto the newsletter. Oftentimes, businesses are given a contact list of attendees that you could reach out to. There's advertising opportunities on the website or through other partners for that conference, or speaking opportunities. This is all a way of growing your audience, growing your exposure through reaching new audiences, right? Another way that you could look at partnerships too is just traditional PR, right? That could be, getting articles through different magazines or newspapers or blogs. Another way of really growing the exposure that your business has. So these are the 3 ways that you can grow your audience online. Again, that's running ads, investing in an SEO strategy, or spending your time and energy and also a budget on creating these meaningful partnerships that's going to let you get exposed to other people's audiences or other brands' audiences. And I just want to reiterate, before you really start working on this attract strategy, you want to make sure that your client value journey is really in place. And I would suggest allocating a budget to making sure that those 6 stages of your client value journey are systemized and pulled together tightly. So when you do get that new audience to your website, that you have a way of selling to them properly or gathering their email information so you can continue to nurture them through the buying process. So I hope that this episode was useful to you. I would love to hear your ideas or experiences with any of these 3 growth strategies. And I will leave you with one more note. If you're a bootstrapped founder and you find that you have limited resources, I would suggest focusing on just one of these strategies as you grow. As your budget grows and as your sales and marketing department gets more sophisticated, I believe it's absolutely essential to have all 3 of these strategies going. But when you're just starting out, I would focus on just one of these growth strategies to allocate a bit of budget to allocate your time and energy to, in order to really see results. So that's it for this week. I'm excited to see you back here next week, where we'll continue to talk about the tips, tricks, and methods to growing your business and having a really solid marketing program. See you next week.
That's it for this week. Thank you for listening to the Marketing for Startups podcast and for sticking around till the end. It would mean so much to me if you could like and subscribe to this podcast. It's a great way of telling the world that this podcast has content worth listening to. And remember, you could always reach me at LinkedIn at Victoria Hajar or at uglyventures.com. Thanks for listening. Until next week.